Hello, world. Welcome to another episode of Golf Subpar. Colt Knost and Drew Stoltz coming to you after a beautiful week in Las Vegas, Nevada, one of my favorite cities. And Martin Laird is your champ, Sleaze.
Yeah, Martin Laird, the champion. Good to see him back in the winner's circle. Been 7 years, coming off a little bit of an injury. Also had to get in this week on a sponsor's invite, which props to Shriners for sometimes they catch heat, these sponsors, when they give away an exemption. The guys don't play well. They get flack for it. Shout out to Shriners for getting it right and getting Martin Laird in there. Now he's won 2 times out there. The guy's an absolute beast in the desert. Local guy here. Makes sense. He plays well out there. But damn, how about the scoring?
Yeah, he won in 2009 and then lost in the playoff to Jonathan Bird's walk-off hole-in-one.
That's a tough one.
Tough, but yeah, like you said, he absolutely loves this place. We see this a lot on the PGA Tour. Guys play well at certain golf courses, and it seems like they always do. Patrick Cantlay was another example this week, but shout out to Martin Laird for getting the job done. It was really cool to see, and some of the craziest scoring I've ever seen on the PGA Tour. I've been out there a long time. I've never seen a 7-under par cut at a 36-hole cut.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild. I feel like it's becoming more and more frequent. These things are starting to creep up. 5-under, 6-under. Now we got a 7-under. I mean, our good friend Scott Harrington out here, God bless him, dude goes out, shoots 8-under the first day. He's 1 shot back, second place. Stumbles a little bit in round 2, shoots 73. See you later. From second, all the interviews, all the media stuff to no longer here anymore. I mean, you go out, shoot 68. Cool. Pack your shit. I don't care where you go, but you're not playing here this weekend.
Enjoy Las Vegas. You're not playing golf this weekend.
It's an absolute beat. And COVID Las Vegas, so you can't even go out and do what you normally do. But man, I mean, there's just, you give those guys good weather, like we've been saying, good weather, no wind at all the first couple days, dome golf basically, perfect greens. I mean, they're just going to eat the place up, and it's just becoming, I mean, I think 14 under was the lead after 36. I was like, dude, what's going to win this? I thought north of 25 might win it, but we got a little wind on Sunday.
Yeah, we got a little bit on Saturday and Sunday, but like we said, hats off to Martin Laird for getting the job done. That was awesome. But I got to take my hat off to you because you got a special little announcement recently. Do you want to tell the people about it?
Oh, are you referring to, yes.
This is the newest member of the Thunderbirds.
Yeah, dude. How about that? The standards are going down here in the
are
great
they
city
ever?
of Phoenix. I mean, these are the dudes, for those that aren't familiar. It's the group. If you watch the Phoenix Open, or if you've ever been to the Phoenix Open, there's these guys in blue tunics that are walking around. They got the beads and all this stuff. They're the Thunderbirds. They're basically the reason that the Phoenix Open has turned into what it's turned into. They do a great job. They raise money for the entire city, huge philanthropic group, but more than anything, they drive that Phoenix Open and they make it huge. They're the ones getting all the entertainment there, all the big names that play at the Bird's Nest, all the 16 being fully enclosed. Now 17's turning into that. These are the guys that make it go. And yeah, man, out of nowhere last week, got the call. We were actually in Vegas when I got the call. Not an ideal time to be taking that call, but yeah, dude, couldn't be more excited. Pretty cool thing for me being a guy from here now that's been here about 10, 12 years. It's a special deal.
Yep.
So thanks for the shout out.
Congratulations. Well, I can tell you this. You will not be doing any of those cool things you just mentioned. You'll be moving orange parking cones at about 4:30 a.m. So get ready for that. I know you're a big morning person.
The morning and me, we go hand in hand. But I've already been told by a number of them, like, first year, you'll be assistant to the assistant parking guy. You'll be moving cones. So if you're coming in here and you're drunk with 33 of your friends need to know where to park, I'll probably be the guy that's helping you out getting where you need to be. So.
And the good news is you probably got plenty of those beads at home.
I got a lot of. I'm ready. I'm ready for Mardi Gras too, in case that breaks out there.
All right. Well, our guest this week, Chris Como, who works with Bryson DeChambeau on his golf swing. Some interesting comments made about Bryson from one Matthew Fitzpatrick this week.
Yeah, dude. Perfect timing to have this interview, which I thought was awesome. We're going to get to it in a minute. But Matthew Fitzpatrick, we do a lot of talking with Chris about Bryson, obviously. Matthew Fitzpatrick came out this week, stirred the pot a little bit. I'll paraphrase his quote basically. He basically said, hitting it far isn't a skill, and what Bryson's doing is making a mockery of the game. That's pretty much paraphrasing exactly what he said. And
he basically went on to say that he could get with a biomechanist, gain 40 pounds, gain 40 yards, and do it. He goes, that's a fact. Anyone can do that. Well, Matthew, if you're listening, why don't you do that?
I felt like he was making an argument against himself. Yeah. He was saying, this sucks, this is stupid, it makes a mockery of the game. I could do it too, but I'm just choosing not to. And I was like, dude, you just out-argued yourself. If you can gain 40 yards and gain 40 pounds and go do what he's doing, and he's making the game look so easy right now, who's stopping you? That's exactly what Bryson did. He took a risk. He tried to change his whole body, change his golf game, and it's working. So if you don't like it, you're more than welcome to try to do the same thing.
Well, Sleaze, I'm not sure if I can do it, but I can tell you one thing. I'm not going to try. I'm just going to sit right here.
That ship has sailed. Those 600 cuts or 700 cuts, I want no part of it. But yeah, I don't get, like, I feel like there are other players that feel what Matthew Fitzpatrick is feeling. Not a lot of them have vocalized it, but you also see a lot of support. And I feel like more so from the top-end players of the world. Your Rorys, your DJs, Tony Finau's been out there, Justin Thomas. They're all complimentary of what Bryson's done because they're like, dude, he went out and did it. We could all try to do the same thing. And now you're seeing more of them, on social media showing you they're trying to ramp up their speed. The trickle-down effect is happening. But I don't see how you can knock the guy for what he's doing. Everybody's got the same opportunity to do it.
Yeah, it's very impressive. I'm guessing he probably wishes he probably would have just bit his tongue on that one. But you know what? You live and you learn, and Matthew Fitzpatrick's going to be fine. But listen, what Bryson DeChambeau is doing is absolutely incredible. And our guest this week, Chris Como, he's the man who's been there firsthand, knows all about it. I mean, Bryson came to him with this idea, and basically, as we get to in the interview, Como talks all about breaking it down and how risky it was to do what Bryson's been doing.
Yeah, this was cool, man. We did it live from his house in the studio.
In the lab.
You seen right in the lab, right where you've seen all the work going in, all the speed training. We saw all the contraptions, all the different things, and we really just got down to it, like the entire origin of how this came about. When did he come to you with this? How did you guys do it? Did you think it's going to work? I mean, we got an inside look at everything that's going on with Bryson right now, and it was interesting stuff. We really get into some like deep golf talk in this one.
But not only Bryson, like Chris Como has worked with arguably the two biggest topics in the game of golf, two biggest people in the game of golf in the last 10 years, Tiger Woods and Bryson DeChambeau. So it's cool to break them both down, compare them both a little bit like we did with Chris. I thought it was absolutely fascinating, one of my favorite interviews we've done. But before we get to him, we got to get a little message from our new official sponsor, Rockform.
Absolutely.
This week's Golf Subpar episode is brought to you by Rockform. And Sleaze, you and I both have used this incredible speaker. It is fantastic.
Yeah, used it this past weekend, dude, for my debut here, and I love this thing because the magnets on this thing, there's a lot of speakers that are loud and they sit in the back or they sit in the front, whatever. You can magnet this straight to your cart no matter where you go. We drive some weird spots looking for my balls sometimes. This thing is clamped on. It is as strong as a magnet as I've ever seen on a golf speaker.
Yeah, the magnets are so strong that it almost pried open Ches Reeve's wallet. It was incredible.
Almost, not quite.
But I tell you, the thing I like about it the most is the battery life. Because how many times do you play and then the next day you're like, damn it, I forgot to charge my speaker. This thing lasts up to 5 rounds of golf. It's incredible. And it's waterproof. You get a little rowdy, sling the curtain around the corner. Yeah, you never know.
You don't got to waste the cup holder on the speaker. Keep those available for what they're supposed to be available for. And it's awesome. And we haven't done this yet, although I am looking forward to do this. We're going to have to find the right venue to do it. You can pair both of them together. If you want to be real loud, if you want to be that dude that's just kind of obnoxious and announcing your arrival there on the first tee, you absolutely can. And that would sound like the inside of the Superdome, I think.
That's getting amongst it. I love it. You let the whole golf course know where the Sleazy Man and Gravy are.
Right. Hey, guys, I'm 3 over and I'm loud. That's the way I like to announce my arrival. So if you want to get amongst it on the golf course with Rockform, go to rockform.com. Enter code SUBPAR for 25% off. That's code SUBPAR at ROKFORM.com for 25% off Rockform speakers. And here's the man himself, Chris Como. All right, we are coming to you live from the Speed Lab. Our next guest has worked with some of the biggest talents in the game of golf: Tiger Woods, Bryson DeChambeau, Colt Knost, temporarily, I believe.
Yeah, it was quick sesh.
Okay, all right. You're still in the mix, though. He is host of Swing Expedition every Monday, 7 Eastern on the Golf Channel. Chris Como, thanks for being with us.
Thanks
dude.
for
Good
coming.
to be in the lab.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming.
Let's talk about this lab. Like, how did this all come about?
Oh, geez. Yeah. It was just kind of a random sort of, it's sort of been in my mind kind of, would it be cool to build a sort of a multi-sport biomechanics lab somewhere, right? And then I was at the Players Championship with Bryson Emiliano, and, I guess they canceled the tournament on Friday, I think it was. So I'm flying back home, and it just became apparent like the world was going to shut down. And I was, I had an apartment in Dallas. I was spending a lot of time in New York, and I was like, okay, what am I going to do if things do actually shut down? Golf Channel called me. They're like, hey, we got to put a halt on filming some episodes of the show. And it's just like, I suck at being bored. So I landed in Dallas, called up a realtor, and I was like, help me find a house with really big ceilings in the Dallas area, because I had this idea I kind of want to put together. We went around, found some places, and finally found this.
How many places did you look at before you were finally like, okay, I can work here?
So the idea was I needed a roof or ceiling to be high enough to shoot a 3-point shot. So we kind of put that at about 18, 20 feet. And I literally went into 10 houses and would spend maybe 40 seconds in a house, walk in, see the living room. Nope, won't work. Walked out, found one place that maybe would work, but we would have had to shoot the basket over the kitchen. It just would have been bouncing.
But why why 3-pointers?
Because I wanted this multi-sport. I just thought it'd be fun to kind of get technology that can measure principles of motion, even though golf's kind of what I do, right? But just to look at other sports and look at how they use the ground to create enough sort of momentum to shoot the basket however far, hit slap shots, etc. Because we've done hockey stuff in here, basketball. Honestly, it was just kind of my own kind of musing curiosity to just sort of explore a bit. And I thought it'd be fun too. Basketball's awesome, right? If I'm going to be locked down.
You told us before the show, Seth Curry.
Yep.
Steph's brother's been in here. Jamie Benn.
Yep.
Y'all have had all kinds of athletes. Who are some of the other people that have been through here?
Bryson, Emiliano Grillo. I teach these kids that play at UT, Parker and Pearson Cootie, and just kind of a handful of random people.
Yeah. So this wasn't specifically the Bryson lab, like, hey, we got to have a place to try to crank it up to 210.
No, it was more of like, okay, what am I going to do with some time if we do get shut down? And then to me, it would just be a fun place to kind of, take data, research. I always love kind of going down rabbit holes or whatever. So got the place, and then, got these GASP force plates. So they measure the ground reaction forces. And then we have a Gears 3D motion capture system. And it's kind of like a lab that you would find at a university. In my living room.
This is where it's all. How many of these nets have you gone through with Bryson? Is this the same one?
Yeah, surprisingly, yeah.
That's a hell of a
good
net.
Good net. Strong net.
The net return. Shout out. If you can handle that, you can handle anything.
Let's go back to your beginning. Like, what even got you interested in the game of golf? Like, did you want to be a professional player at some point? How did you get into teaching and all that?
I started golf pretty late, like when I was about 16 years old, and I'm a first generation golfer. No one in my family plays golf. And a friend of mine's uncle took me golfing, and I just kind of got the bug. And really quickly, I was just like, okay, I'm going to try and get as good at this game as I can. In my mind, I've always been kind of like curious and analytical. So I was like, if I read every golf thing out there, that's going to help me speed up that process of getting better, which in hindsight was probably, a little bit off. So I studied the game, would get lessons from a bunch of different teachers in the LA area.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Like, what teachers did you go to learn? Because I know that's kind of the popular way. Like, you pick other teachers' brains.
Yeah. So a guy named Roger Gunn was an early mentor. Adam Schreiber, Brady Riggs, all these kind of California people. And I would go into these lessons with like a fair amount of knowledge because I was reading and studying. And they're just like, how do you know this about like the golf swing? Because I'm like this young kid just kind of randomly getting a lesson. So early on, I had a lot of teachers take me under their wing and just kind of mentor me. And then when I graduated college, I was trying to play for a little bit. I mean, like in hindsight, I wasn't even anywhere good enough. But I mean, I was an okay player, so I was passionate about the game, was trying to play, dislocated my shoulder. And even when I was competing, I was teaching people that I was playing against a lot. It just kind of, they're like, hey, can you look at my swing? So it was sort of this weird dynamic where I just loved coaching people. Dislocated my shoulder, and it became apparent that was the path I was going to go down.
Did you like coaching more than playing at the time, even when you were still trying to play? Did you always kind of know, like, I might like doing this more than actually like competing?
In a weird way, yes. It just really kind of I'm a curious person. I love like analyzing stuff and studying something and trying to just understand what makes something work. And I mean, I loved competing also, but there was just something about just really trying to figure it out that captivated me. So in some ways, I would say yes.
Yeah, you started off, when I met you, you were at the Golden Bear driving range in Plano, Texas.
Yeah.
Working with Mike Madonna.
Yep.
But now, I mean, you're the lead instructor at Dallas National. Like, did you ever envision, and you're working with Bryson DeChambeau and these guys on the PGA Tour, did you ever envision, like, all this happening as fast as it did?
So I definitely, when I went down the path of I'm going to be committed to teaching, my goal was to be, one of the best coaches in the world. So from the get-go, that was like, what I was striving to do. I traveled the country early on and worked for a bunch of different teachers, worked for David Ledbetter, worked for Hank Haney for a bit, spent time with Mac O'Grady, end up in Dallas to open up an academy that fell through, and that's how I end up at Golden Bear. I kind of liked the Dallas area. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stay out here and just do my own thing. But there was a window when I moved to Dallas, and I was working at this academy, and I was a partner in the academy, and I made so much less than I was supposed to. And I was like 26 at the time or something. And in college I'd gotten good grades, and I had like other paths that I was probably supposed to do because they were like, would make you more money or whatever. 26, 27-ish, and I think, and I'm at this academy, I'm making no money. I made like $20,000, $19,000 that year, and working like a lot of hours. And it was like, why did I go down this path? Like, this is like, what did I do? This is the worst thing, right? So I had a point actually where I almost got out of golf instruction, where I was like this is just, I should have gone to law school, or I should have done this or whatever. And I kind of gave myself, I was like, okay, no, I'm going to spend 5 years, and I'm going to pretend like I have no other option. My back's against the wall, and I'm going to either make this teaching business work, or at that point I'll reevaluate. And at that point, like after 5 years, I was teaching some good players. I was doing stuff with Golf Magazine. So it's weird, right? In one sense, it happened way slower than I thought it would be because I did everything I could from when I started teaching to when I ended up in Dallas doing like certifications, trying to find every teacher I could work for, like really being like, I'm so committed to this. And I'm gonna do everything I can to be the best coach I can be. And then I'm in Dallas and making like no money, like don't know anybody out here. And I was like, this was the wrong decision. So in some ways it was slower than I thought it would be. But then when it started to kind of happen, it actually happened faster than I thought it would be.
You spent some time at Westlake Golf Club out in LA with George Gankis, obviously, and there's been a ton of great players out there. How was that time with him? A, what was your first impression of him? And B, did you take some of his teaching's a little unorthodox too? Did you take some of that and put it into what you do?
Well, so I've known George for a long time, and I was teaching out there quite a while ago. I would say George has called me a bunch over the years, especially when I was going to grad school for biomechanics and kind of picking my brain about biomechanics stuff. And George is an awesome teacher, and he's so I've known him for a long time, and we've kind of always sort of bounced stuff off each other.
Yeah, I feel like the golf world really got to know you, obviously, when you started working with Tiger Woods. First off, take us through, how did that even come about? And take us through the first time you worked with him. Like, was there nerves involved? Because I would imagine, this is Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
First off, pinch me. Like, how the hell is this happening right now?
Yeah. And that kind of goes back to before, like the life lesson was like things happen slower than, they never happen on the timeline you think they will. They happen slower than they think it will, and they oftentimes happen faster than they think they will, right? And it's like, you're kind of plodding along, I'm grinding teaching, and then all of a sudden you're working with Tiger, and like everything changes like in an instant, right? So, Nota Begay and myself have been friends for a while. He kind of followed my career in Dallas. He was living in Dallas at the time. And he just thought it would be a really good fit. I was starting to teach guys on tour, so I was already out there. And he introduced us. And the first meeting with him was basically, hey, let's talk golf swing. And going into that, I was like, I was so nervous, right? Like, I was like, I'm about to sit with Tiger Woods and talk golf swing. Yeah. And I brought my laptop with a bunch of swings of him over the years, different players, just to kind of like talk about certain principles and relationships that I think, he did when he played his best, and that, most great ball strikers do. And nervous going into it, but once we started talking golf, it was like, it's just like, that's my world, right? Like I'd spent my whole life, like my whole adult life sort of studying this. So it's just like, it was just very natural for me to talk about golf swing and just talk about like kind of planning for what I think, he should potentially do, that the nerves sort of melted away and I just kind of got into my own.
So that's my next question. So you have Tiger Woods, arguably the greatest player that's ever played. Like, how do you pick apart his golf swing and be like, I think you should change that?
Yeah, so it was at a time when he had made a variety of swing changes over his career and his body was not great. So the whole thing was like, look, in 2000, this is my kind of, macro sort of bird's eye approach of it, was like, in 2000, you hit the ball arguably better than anybody's hit it. Ever, right? Best golf we've ever seen. So in a lot of ways, to me, that's like the gold standard of how to swing a club, especially for him specifically. Now, maybe someone else, that's not the best swing for them, but for him, it's like, dude, you have the precedent of hitting the ball better than anybody's ever hit it, like you did it, right? So we can use this as somewhat of a rough model, but your body can only do so much right now. So to me, it was like, how do we take some of the things that you did back then, particularly how you like deliver the club, how you release it, just the way you controlled the face and all that, and match that with a body motion that can fit what your body can do now. So that, to me, was the rough game plan of where I wanted to go.
I would be like, that's like, hey, MJ, I think you should shoot
your
three.
Elbows a little out, bro.
You should probably bring that a little in. Like, that's just crazy. Like, that's got to be a little intimidating, like, going in.
Yeah,
But you're obviously confident in what you do.
And the thing is, the reality of it is he's made tons of swing changes. He's made tons of, like, you got to keep your elbow in for that analogy, right? But I would argue that the swing changes, or the places he should be, was the stuff he was in 2000. So it's sort of like, you're making a swing change, but the swing changes are just to get back to what you were before, and you've already shown yourself to be able to make a variety of swing changes, because how many people has he sort of worked with? And
he's a guy that every teacher in the world would love the opportunity to work with. You go and you meet with him, you sit down. What do you think it was about what you said that really registered with him? He was like, this is the guy I want to go with.
Oh, I don't know.
Anything specific? It was like working around his injuries or something technical?
Probably, I would guess so. And I think, in general, it's just sort of like, planning out sort of the logic, just kind of like formulating the logic of why I think you should go in a certain direction, and then kind of like an overall arc of what that would look like. And I think that's kind of how I approach it with most people. It's like, hey, you're here. This is where I think you should get to because of the whys. And, I try to make somewhat of a logical argument behind that why. And then this is the overall plan of how to get there. And with some people that plan resonates with, some people it doesn't, and you know, for whatever reason it is sort of connected with him.
When you look back at like your time with him, is there anything that like kind of surprised you about Tiger? As far as like maybe how he went about the game or anything like that, or just because I heard he's obviously a huge student of the game, and he's very interested in all kinds of things. Like I'll back this up. Are you surprised like that he made as many swing changes as he did? Like when you have this year like 2000 where you win majors by 15 and by 8, like why would you ever change anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an interesting point because to me that's one of those like 20/20 hindsight type things, right? So it's like if you were to look at Tiger's whole career, he's probably made changes as a junior, as you know, an early pro. His swing in 97 is very different than swing in 2000, right? So it's like he's always had the spirit of getting better, right? And you could say, okay, in 2000, he got to this point where it's like, why change it? But like, you know, the spirit of getting better is what got him there. So I don't know how you kind of necessarily change that, right? You can always be like looking backwards and be like, oh, that was a bad decision. To me, the analogy I gave someone was like, if you have this like billionaire, you know, investor, you can cherry pick one investment that didn't work out. But if you take his overall investment strategy, you're gonna be like, this guy's done really well, right? So Tiger, if you look at his overall investment strategy in his game, you know, if you were to say at 4-year-old Tiger, hey, we're gonna book you at 15 majors for your career, it's like he would take that, right? So it's like
absolutely. And is that one of the hardest challenges with guys like Tiger or Bryson now? It's like no matter how good they get, like we sit here and talk about 2000 like being the pinnacle of golf, in my opinion. That's the best that's ever been played that I've at least seen. But when he's doing it, he's so driven to get better that it constantly is like, if I'm not changing or doing something to get better, then I'm going backwards or I'm staying here, and that's hard for those guys to do.
It's so hard, and I think that's the thing. The best probably oftentimes have a bit of that spirit, but how do you do it strategically where you sort of kind of minimize that downside, right? So to me, it is sort of like looking at like how you invest in something, and it's like a guy like Bryson, even with the changes we made over COVID, because yes, in hindsight, you know, Tiger probably shouldn't have changed his swing in 2000. Maybe you can make that argument. Again, I would say that overall spirit is just inherent to him and a lot of the greats. So you can't sort of like, you know, after the fact be like, oh, you can't do stuff. But can you make changes, you know, at different times that you try to be sort of as strategic as possible that you mitigate that risk in a sense, right? And with Bryson, he's coming in saying, hey, I want to increase my club head speed. It's like, okay, cool. I want to change my body. Cool. But there's a lot of people who have changed their body and have tried to get club head speed and have lost their game. So you got to be aware of that. You got to be aware of that risk existing, and let's be very strategic of how we try to, you know, explore this potential upside but minimize the risk. And the risk will not disappear. Don't like think that this is a guaranteed thing, but you know, can we be smart about it? And this is where there is a lot of sort of courage for a player trying to get better. And there's, you know, been stories where people have lost their career and that sucks, right? And I think as coaches, this is where it's really important for us to kind of understand that risk and come up with a game plan that again minimizes it. But you know, as a bigger thing to me, like the people who do go down that path, there's a lot of courage in that. I think that deserves a lot of respect.
Let's get into Bryson. Obviously, you go from Tiger Woods, who's the most talked about golfer in the world. Now you go to Bryson DeChambeau, who is now the next most talked about guy in the game of golf. You've been working with him for a while. He obviously went through this whole body change. Was it his idea, or was it as a team, did y'all come up with this? Hey, let's put on these pounds. Let's try to get more speed, or was this strictly up to Bryson and y'all just had to kind of deal with it?
I mean, it's always their idea at the end of the day. I mean, but yeah, Bryson's the type of person like, how do I get better? How do I get better? Yeah. Right? And that he's got a trainer in Colorado named Greg Roscoff, and you know, just through talks, they kind of talked about that plan. You know, I would bounce stuff off of him too, but it's like it was fundamentally driven by his desire of how do I get stronger to hit it farther, and this was the path that, you know, I would say him and Greg came up with, and then I was kind of like a person to bounce stuff off of.
Were you worried at all about this, or you're like?
Yeah, what was your first reaction? He's like, I'm gonna gain 35 pounds. I'm gonna start trying to get 200 mile an hour ball speed. Were you like, that seems drastic?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, a little nervous.
A lot.
Yeah, no, it really.
You got to. I mean, like you said, people make changes and it fails sometimes. And here's a guy that's a world-class player that's won on the PGA Tour, and he's like, I'm going to totally change everything I do right now.
Yeah,
and it's got to be a tough, like, as part of his team, you got to be like, oh boy, I don't know.
Yeah. And that's 100% it. So that was my whole thing. It's like, okay, you need to understand what the risk is, but I'm not saying don't do it. at the end of the day, it wouldn't matter. You're just like, you're going to do it.
Yeah. He strikes me as the kind of guy who thinks something's going to work, but there's no convincing him otherwise.
So, yeah, but exercise and futility for sure. But to me, it's like, okay, be smart about this. You're going to do this. I kind of know you're going to do it. And I'm not even saying like you shouldn't do it. Do it. Like chase it. Like I think it's cool when people chase that sort of that vision they have, that the highest level that they kind of see themselves being. It's like, okay, awesome. Do it smartly. Measure stuff along the way. Kind of know the baseline of your swing, where you're starting from, because like you said, he was already a great player. So that way, if you kind of go down a path that doesn't fit you, you have a better chance of unraveling that and kind of getting back to that previous baseline that you know worked at some capacity, right? So to me, like the analogy would be leaving breadcrumbs in a forest, so that way you don't end up getting lost in kind of the labyrinth of making these changes.
Let me ask you this before you ask your next question. Do you think if like you have all this technology, all this 3D and everything, say 20 years, 30 years before this stuff happened, do you think Bryson could change his body and be successful without technology?
Yes, 100%. I just think the possibility of going down a path that didn't fit him and then not knowing how to get out of that would be higher. So, I mean, like, look, if he went down the path he went down right now, hypothetically, years before this technology, it would have worked out. But what is the chances of him going down the correct path, and then also what are the chances of him going down the wrong path? I think that probability changes somewhat without having ways to kind of measure what you're doing along the way.
When he first came out and it was Bryson 2.0, whatever you want to call it, right after COVID, the media got onto it and they're like, there's a lot of naysayers. Oh, you can't do this. This won't work. You can't swing that hard and hit it on the planet. It's not going to work. Obviously now it's worked. He just won the US Open by 6 shots. Are you shocked at all at how quickly it has worked to make like a transformation that drastic and have it work out like really right off the bat? Like there wasn't much feeling out process where he was kind of struggling with it. I feel like he's been all systems go since COVID, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the expectation would have been for it to not have worked out that quickly. Both the speed gains and then also being able to control
it, and like your iron distance has changed. There's so many different things that change. It's not just like, hey, my body's bigger. It's like every club, every shot now looks different than it did for so long. So
100%.
There's a lot of feeling out process there, but not for him really.
I mean, there was, but it has been quite a bit, and like you just said, like, getting your yardages right, like all that stuff is changing, just like like being able to score, right? So you could in theory sort of get the club at speed and say, okay, I'm figuring out ways to control it really well, but not score well because you don't know your yardages anymore, or just like the whole kind of anatomy of your game has changed a bit, right? But this, I think, is a testimony to his work ethic. I mean, he spends so much time practicing, trying to figure stuff out, that I think all those things that go into scoring, getting the yardages, kind of knowing your miss, things like that, he was able to sort of expedite that whole process because of just the sheer amount of time and effort he's put into it.
Yeah, and if you look back at like your time with Tiger and your time with Bryson, can you compare those two at all? Do they have any similarities or anything? Other than being great players, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I think, in terms of like, Tiger obviously is notorious, is known for like his work ethic. But, when I was working with him, he just didn't have his body didn't have the capacity to like hit a ton of balls, right? So it was very strategic with how much time he could spend hitting balls, just because of the back and all that. Bryson has the work ethic that I would imagine Tiger had in his prime. So there's that sort of comparison. And then, just that overall curiosity. They're both very curious people. They both like love trying to understand the game, their own swing, just really kind of going deep into like thought of like what makes this all work. So both very smart and curious. And then going back to that other thing, like kind of willing to take risk, right? They had this vision, this goal in their mind, and they're willing to sort of say, okay, I'm going to take the risk to kind of achieve that. Because at the end of the day, there's a cost of doing nothing also, right? You do nothing. There's how many people who have not ever tried to get better and lost their tour card? So it's like we hear the horror stories of...
Hi, right here.
I lost my mini tour card too.
One
of the worst days of my life. I lost my chicken card.
Right? But it's like, people cherry pick the stories of like a guy made swing changes, lost his card. There's also people who didn't make swing changes and were kind of like stagnant and lost their card. So it's sort of like, you got to sort of look at both sides
of it.
It's
like a double-edged sword a little bit.
A little bit,
yeah. But all the attention is around Bryson and how far he's hitting and doing all the things. He just won the US Open. He was only 7th in the field in driving distance. Do you think the other aspects of Bryson's game are getting overlooked right now? Because he's unbelievable, especially at Wingfield.
Yeah, and
so
Jordan,
many different categories.
We sat down with Jordan Spieth, and he said the same thing. He's like, Bryson gets talked about all his distance. This guy is a world-class putter as well. He's top 10 in putting. Like, it just doesn't get talked about enough.
Unbelievable. All his
he was second at the U.S. Open in scrambling.
It's like everyone talks about his driving. I was like, dude, he was 7th that week, and he won by 6. So what aspects of his game do you think get overlooked the most?
100%. So he had his round on Saturday where he didn't hit it great. And, he came off, but he stayed in there. Like, chipped it awesome, got up and down, just over and over and over again, right? So that to me is like that mental tenacity, just hanging in. He got off the course, and Bryson loves, like, working on trying to control the ball. Like, he wants to be, like, one of the best ball strikers of all time, right? He got off the course, and I looked at him. I was like, that's the round that wins the U.S. Open. That right there, that's the round of a champion. That round where you're just hanging in there, don't have your best stuff, but you're not letting it get away from you. That's the one that wins this tournament. And then we went to the range and hit balls, that night and figured some stuff out. Came out Sunday, hit awesome.
I was just about to ask you about that. Under the lights, alone, people saw him working out there. He could have worked till midnight. What was that session like? What were you guys doing the night before the final round?
I actually joked with him on the range. I was like, you really want to get people talking? Let's just pull an all-nighter. Just like stay here all night, play in the same clothes tomorrow. Just like, they'll freak out.
Like live from them. I'm like, he's still there. He's the only guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we just, I was watching inside the clubhouse, not the tent area, and I was watching the whole round. I would actually film some swings on my phone, and he was struggling out there. So like, there's some stuff that I saw, and we went to the range, talked about it, and he's just the type of person where he's like, I'm just not going to go to bed unless I feel like I have a sense of what I was doing and how to correct it. So we stayed out there, and we figured some stuff out. He felt good. He's like, all right, I feel good, and then at that point we got out of there.
I was going to ask that because every time you turn on the TV, if there's a live from it, a major or anything, you see Bryson on the range, smashing drivers. Then you see him at the U.S. Open. It's pitch dark. He's hitting balls. Does this guy sleep at all?
I know, it's tough.
It's crazy to me. Like,
are you on call 24/7? Might get a call at 3 a.m. Hey, dude, woke up, not feeling right. Yeah,
I mean,
check me out.
He may think so. I don't answer.
but seriously, like, I never see this guy like he's always at the golf course.
Yeah, he
works, man.
He's committed to being.
That's why I'm sitting in this chair. I didn't work. And I don't have talent, but other than that, we're there.
We're right there. But with what he's doing right now, I'm not saying players are going to go through the same drastic change. I don't expect guys to put 30 pounds on and start doing the things that he's been doing because that's so much time and effort. But do you expect the strategy or the mentality of the rest of the PGA Tour to change? Seeing that Bryson is playing more aggressively, hitting more drivers, other guys like a Cam Champ or a Tony Finau, I'll be like, dude, well, I can move it out there pretty good too. Why am I not doing this as often as Bryson?
Maybe, yeah, I think so. I mean, I think
like a shift.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, the U.S. Open was like, Mark Brody, the guy at Columbia, the PhD at Columbia, who did the strokes gained stats. We had a conversation after the U.S. Open, and we're talking. It was like, and this was my thoughts going into it. If you were to take a course where the fairways are super wide, it becomes obvious that you should hit driver every hole, right? Yeah. Okay. Now take the other extreme. If you were to take a course where the fairway was like 1 yard wide, or extreme, if there was no fairway, you would also hit driver on every hole, right? So the fairways at Wingfoot were actually, in a sense, too narrow to bring in sort of the shorter, straighter hitters because they were so narrow that no one's going to hit a lot of fairways that it just became correct to like hit driver as far as you can. You put it out there. If you're in the rough, you still have like a wedge into the green or a short iron to the green. And, the firmer the greens get, the more the ball is going to stop from the angle of descent as opposed to spin, right? So like the extreme example I was trying to explain this is like take a green that's made of cement. If I drop it vertically, it's going to bounce, and then settle, right? Or if I have a ball coming in at a sort of a lower angle of descent with like a ton of spin, it's still going to skip, right? So as the greens get firmer, actually that angle of descent is a bigger effect of like how the ball will stop. So it's like Bryson, even if you smash it down there and you can't spin out of the rough, so you're just sort of hacking it out, because you're hitting a shorter iron in, you can actually have a better chance of stopping it than even someone from farther back who's producing more spin.
Yeah, we did the SiriusXM coverage during the U.S. Open, and we talked about it all week. I'm like, these fairways are on average 24 yards wide. Like, everyone's missing.
Wasn't it 40-something% field average?
40% was the field average. I'm like,
so nobody's.
So if you miss a fairway, would you rather be 200 yards away or 150? I mean, everyone's missing them. So
exactly.
And first off, he put on a clinic that week.
100%. And this is where going back to like people kind of like adjusting. Look, we're trying to think about things like this is one of the things where it's like in my mind is like, dude, send's the right strategy. And a lot of people are saying, okay, it's more but a premium on fairway, and I don't think it matters.
What if the fairways were, say they were 10 yards wider on average at Wingfoot, and now that the top guys are hitting 60-something%. Would that have changed the strategy at all, or do you think
Yeah.
you just still
Yeah,
ship?
yeah. There's probably a sweet spot of how wide the fairway should be that would bring more people into play, more of the field into play.
So obviously, when you think about the transformation Bryson made, in my mind, it wasn't built for a U.S. Open. It's more built for Augusta National, which we had Jordan Spieth on our show, and he said basically the Masters is Bryson's to lose with what he's doing. What are your thoughts about Bryson with back-to-back majors coming up at Augusta National?
I mean, yeah. I mean, Augusta National likes people who hit it far. But I mean, you still gotta. I mean, Augusta's, you gotta do everything so well out there. So I mean, sure, like hitting it far is going to be an advantage. I think historically that's probably shown to be the case. But look, it hasn't been always bombers that have won out there. You have to do everything else really, really well.
But I mean, it's so cool to hear a guy like Jordan Spieth who's absolutely dominated around Augusta. He was like taking us through some of the holes. Like, he's like, dude, the fairways become so wide where this guy can hit it. Like, I mean, he's the favorite going into Augusta. Do you think he should be?
I mean, people are going to have their conjecture and the odds will be set and all that, and that's cool. Bryson, one shot at a time. I'm staying in the moment.
You still got to get the ball in the hole, like you
Should we
said.
bet him at 10-1? Is what we're trying to get at. Just give me a blink. Just wink if you think so.
If they're setting the odds, they're pretty good at what they do.
Let me ask you this, though, because I met Bryson when he was at SMU. I went to SMU, and Josh Gregory had me come out, and I played around with Bryson at Royal Oaks. And he's got the one-length clubs and all this. And I was huge. I was like, dude, everything you do is awesome. Like, you're your own dude. Everything's great. But I will never agree with having a 60-degree wedge that's the length of a 6-iron. Like, you can't be an elite short game guy. Did you ever have concerns about that, or was this just, you know what, this works for him?
I mean, I think short game, Wingfoot short game was awesome, right? And his wedges are getting better, and now that he's kind of got this distance, we've actually focused a lot of the time on how to get the short irons better, because you're just gonna have more of them. Hitting it farther, you're gonna have a higher frequency of shorter clubs in, and they've gone a lot better. I had a conversation with his longtime coach Mike Shy, who they came up with the whole single length stuff a while ago, and he's like, I don't know why people make such a big deal about the wedges being the same length. He's like, just choke up on it. It's like, okay, I think that's a really, really valid point. So because to me, I was unbiased. It was like, whatever. Like, at the end of the day, I just want him to play great, through the bag or whatever. But yeah, I mean, look, one, you can choke up on it, and two, now that he's been allocating more time in that direction, it's definitely on the right trajectory with where it's going.
Yeah, he's doing okay.
Yeah, it's working out, whatever you guys are doing. But speaking of what are you doing, what do you guys do differently, if anything, leading up to Augusta? I mean, it's a pretty unique golf course, different. Do you guys tweak your prep, like, compared to what you did for Wingfoot? Or is it more the same?
Probably just more the same. Just kind of really going through his whole stuff to where he feels like his swing is in a place where he can control the ball. He does a lot of testing always with his equipment, just trying to get it just right in the right spot. So I wouldn't say too much different in terms of prep. I think he just has his process that again, there's a course in front of you. You go through that process to prepare for the tournament. Now maybe strategically, different courses would yield different kind of strategies going into it. For the U.S. Open, again, the correct strategy was to just send it. I guess it would probably be similar, I would imagine. So, I compared to the U.S. Open, I don't think it would be that different. There's hypothetically other courses that may yield a different strategy going forward, but Augusta's, I think.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Win a major by 6, keep doing that.
But I gotta know, because he's been talking about it, I'm sure you've seen it. There's talk of this 48-inch driver potentially coming out. Augusta's a place that's been floated. Have you seen it, A, and B, what % chance do you give it that thing makes its debut at Augusta? I
mean, the cool thing about Bryson is that there's no sort of box, right? He's not the type of person where it has to be this. The single length clubs, I think that's a great example. Why do the clubs have to be different lengths? So he's going to rethink the problem and be like, is there a better solution for me? Why does the driver have to be 45 or whatever it is, right? Can I play with a longer driver potentially? So there is no sort of box he's working within other than the rules of golf. Which is great. It's like this open territory to explore things. Going into Augusta with a 48, I don't know. We'll see. It's still very early on that whole thing. Again, you can't, it's not just about hitting it far. And I think that's what Bryson has done great is he hits it far, but he's got a pretty good control over his golf ball with the driver, right? It's actually great control. So to be seen. I don't know.
What kind of ball speed have you seen him get with the 48?
He's gotten up to, he'll be in the 200s. So, but
Good.
but
That's useful.
yeah,
It's helpful.
the
What's the threshold? Like, all right, so let's say the 48 inch and he's hitting it 200 plus every single time. How crooked would he have to get with it before he's like, no, there's the point of diminishing returns here?
I don't know the exact number. It's gonna be different for different courses. I don't know the exact sort of like the ratio of like sideways,
Like dispersion.
yeah,
or whatever.
per length. That's something that we'll as we get further along with it, we'll kind of talk about what that right ratio would be. But
If I could hit 200, it'd be no matter what.
yeah, but that is a thing though. It does become where if you hit it farther, you can hit it. Up to a certain point, you can hit it a little wider and still be strokes gained. Sort of a net gain with it also.
But we got to get into our emergency 9 fun questions.
Okay.
Get to know you, your people a little better. Okay. And we do this with everyone. Our number one question. There's a movie made about the life of Chris Como. You can pick any actor to play you. Who plays you?
Oh, geez, come on.
We'll give you a few examples.
These are the hard-hitting questions.
Listen,
I don't
you don't have to
even know
overthink
movies.
it.
I'm like the worst to that stuff.
Gary Woodland picked Denzel Washington for him, so obviously it doesn't have to be like.
Yeah, we're loose. We're very liberal with who we'll allow. So
I actually
who
have
you
an
got?
opinion.
You got one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who you
Miles
got?
Teller.
Oh,
I don't even know who that is.
Oh, he's a funny
Tyler's
guy,
like
dark-headed guy.
The It Hollywood.
We got to get you out of golf
You
lab.
gotta get off of
Yeah,
this
more.
computer once in a while and turn on Netflix.
I'm not
You
well-rounded.
got a TV right here. We can watch some stuff.
I'm not a well-rounded individual.
I got Chris O'Donnell.
Oh, love Chris O'Donnell.
You know who that is?
Yeah,
I feel like you got a little
Robin.
similar look. Yeah, Robin.
I'll go with that.
Robin was Chris.
I want to go with the guy I don't know.
Miles Teller.
Sure.
You'd like him. He's great. He's funny. Girls like him too.
All right,
so.
cool. Okay. Why him though?
You just kind of look like him to me.
okay.
Kind of got that vibe.
Yeah. I'm looking for someone that can play you.
Okay.
Smart. Yeah. Chris O'Donnell was actually at our Walker Cup in Ireland.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's a big golfer.
Loves golf. He randomly come and I play AT&T at Pebble Beach the next February. And I'm on the range hitting balls. He goes, I haven't seen you since you were passing out shots over at Royal County Down. I'm like, oh my God, you were there? I don't remember you being there.
That's awesome.
That was great.
I think you guys are gonna answer all these questions for me. To be honest, that's my prediction.
No, just that one. Just that we come prepared for that one. All right, next one. Favorite all-time golf swing
Ooh,
from a man who knows it all.
Tiger 2000.
Tiger 2000.
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
I mean, it's just,
That's the right answer. I was gonna buzz you out if you said anything but.
I'm such a pragmatist. To me, like a good golf swing is defined by what the ball does, and the ball did just like what the best that we've ever seen it back then. A lot of people kind of like romanticize like say Hogan or whatever, which obviously hit it awesome. But to me, it's like Tiger just from a practical perspective, he hit the ball so high that it's like you can stop the ball on firm greens, major championship setups. Like his game was just designed to wear out a major championship setup. So to me, just the utility of his ball flight and all that, like that's the gold standard.
Yeah, 2000 is the best in damn near every statistical category that matters. So yeah, that one works.
All right, number 3. Do you think Tiger Woods has underachieved in his career?
I mean, look,
I love this question.
This is such a 20/20 hindsight sort of thing. The guy at every point in his career did everything he could to get better at the game. And in hindsight, you could say maybe cherry pick one decision or whatever and be like, oh, that maybe wouldn't have been the best or whatever. I would not call it underachieving. I would call it, this is one of those things where, yes, if you were to cherry pick and say, don't change your swing from 2000, does he win more majors? Maybe so. But it's such a sort of a silly sort of 20/20 hindsight sort of perspective in my mind.
You just called my question silly.
Not the question. No.
It's actually true.
But just like at his decision points, he was doing what got him to that place. So, I don't know. I wouldn't call it underachieving. I would just say, a little bit of a kind of life variance, I guess.
Yeah, and there's some variables thrown into the mix there. This one's completely unrelated, but I'm just looking around right here. Looks like ultimately possibly the best man cave situation ever set up in here. What's the next thing you add in here? Where do you go from here?
Ooh. We just put the TV up, so maybe kind of like finish it out a little bit. I think like maybe a new weight set would be kind of cool.
Yeah, that's. Does he do like pinky curls with those, Bryson?
Yeah, exactly. That's my setup, not his. Yeah.
I saw Colt eyeball on that. We'll probably hop on that afterwards. Move some real weight.
I don't know. Any suggestions? Maybe I think just kind of finishing it out right now.
Maybe like a mural on the wall of Bryson head on a bull. Taking the bull by the horns. That'd be good. Think about that. Next time we
I like the mural
right
idea.
here, big mural.
I don't know what the mural would be at, but I like some kind of weird mural thing in here would be cool.
Staying on the topic of Bryson, other than golf, Does he do anything for fun?
I mean, he's obviously loves working out.
Fun.
No, that's not fun.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
He plays Fortnite. He's really good at Fortnite.
Oh,
I think.
yeah. See him on the
He's super into
on
that.
the Twitch or whatever. Yeah.
I think that's his kind of like escape. That's his reprieve from like just the intensity of his work.
I got him to take a shot with me one time.
Oh, you did?
Nice.
He was probably hungover for a week.
Yeah, he's not.
Yeah.
Get it out. All right, next question. If you could have the opportunity to work with one non-golf athlete who you haven't previously worked with, who would you want to work with?
Non-golf.
Non-golf.
So an
'Cause
athlete.
You worked with
Madonna.
Seth Curry, Madonna, Jamie Benn.
Oh, I don't even know who the answer would. It would be someone. If someone was like a good athlete and they really wanted to kind of like just really make a big jump in their game and were willing to kind of like just do whatever, sort of take on that risk. That'd be really fun. That was the cool. Like I loved working with Madonna because he was like, man, I will change my swing. I will work on it. And he's, from where he started, he got a lot better. And that was a really fun project. So I don't know. Like to me, I'm not really like, oh, I want to work with this person. It's more like, what's the attitude and the work ethic they're going to go into working that would make it fun for me.
You obviously worked with Mike Madonna. Have you worked with anyone who has more challenges mentally than Mike Madonna?
Yeah, Mike worked really hard at his game, so it depends on how you define challenges, because he worked really hard and he got a lot better at the game, and he's a good player, right?
His swing's beautiful.
On the range, you're like, oh my God, the guy looks like he play on tour.
Yeah. I mean, he kind of moans, and I think that moaning sort of attitude can be a little bit misinterpreted, right? But he's a good competitor. Even on the golf course, he's a good competitor. I would say absolutely does not have the worst when it comes down to a mental game.
I
think that's a little bit.
Whoever's above him.
No, I mean,
below.
look,
Jesus.
if you were to just sort of like video someone and being like, what is their attitude like on the golf course? Sure, he's going to be a contender for that. But I think deep down inside, when he's over a shot, he's able to settle down and focus. And I mean, he's a good golfer.
It's because he was like one of the best hockey players in the world. He's used to being the best, and he comes to golf, and if every shot's not perfect, he's like, I suck.
And some people, that's just like their spiel, like, right? Like,
It's a little bit of
but that's different than when they're over a shot. Are they really kind of like, battling sort of demons or whatever? Or are they able to kind of settle in and execute? The guy's a great competitor, so he's obviously, I think he's got that ability to execute.
Yes, he's a project. We'll elaborate on that when we get him on. All right, next question. If you had a kid and you couldn't teach them yourself, what teacher would you want to send them?
Oh, that's a cool question. Right now in golf instructor, there's so many good teachers out there. So this is a hard one to choose because there's a lot of great coaches out there that I would feel very comfortable with my kid working with. A guy like Adam Schreiber, who worked with Anthony Kim for a long time.
Schreiber's a legend.
Yeah, Schreiber's a legend. Like I've known him. Like I would drive when I was 19 years old from LA to Palm Springs to go watch him teach. I think he's got some really great stuff. So like he'd be up there. A guy like Brady Riggs out in California, also an unbelievable teacher. Mike Adams in Florida, great teacher. So, I mean, it's a pretty good list. I mean, again, there's
Well, you
a
have
lot.
to pick one.
I have to pick
You can't
one?
just name everyone.
Okay. I mean, I guess.
There's a lot of interviews, dude. He knows what he's doing.
I know.
Yeah, we ain't done anything like this.
True.
We get to the point.
So,
You got to pick one.
okay. Brian Ziegler at Dallas National.
See, that is such a cop-out answer.
He's an awesome teacher. This guy's awesome. Come on. If you're trying to fucking, maybe you can try to put me in a corner. I'm gonna,
Yeah, that's exactly what we do.
Brian Ziegler at Dallas National. That's the plug for my boy right there.
That is unbelievable.
Have a disappointing career. No,
Sorry, guys.
all right, fair enough.
Next question. Me and you are going to be roommates. I'll be living with you for 6 months. How much distance could you get me? Come on, the shortest guys on the planet. Height and distance. 6 months. I'll do everything you say for 6
Do what
months.
it takes.
I'm going to do everything you say. I'm dedicating myself. Well, I'm still going to go out at night, though. I can't not do that. Okay. I got to have some fun every once in a while. How much distance can you get me?
Oh, we can get you 20 yards.
I might have to do it.
Maybe time, bud. You have to do some things, though.
Are you going to charge me
An
rent?
extra twomp.
Are you going to charge me rent?
Can you cook?
No. But I know people.
We'll
Figure something out.
I know people. I can order Postmates.
There you go. You're in. Platinum member. You're in.
We'll figure something out.
Oh, man. All right, Chris. Well, thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Thank
this.
you
It's a
guys.
blast. Thanks for letting us in here. This
Yeah.
place is unbelievable, and looking forward to seeing what you guys got up next, man.
Thank you. Thanks for
Congrats.
coming by.
All right, and that was the brilliant Chris Como. I mean, that was so cool to be in the lab, see where Bryson has been training and all this, and just pick his brain a little bit.
Yeah, hear about some of the numbers he puts up in there, what he's working on going forward. That 48-inch driver is getting a lot of attention right now. If you're a betting man, Colt, do we see the 48-inch driver? He was a little vague with that. Obviously, Bryson keeps everything close to the vest. If you had to bet right now, do we see the 48-inch driver at Augusta? in play.
At least one day.
You think we see it actually in tournament competition?
With him going, he's taking 4 weeks off right now to go home and fine tune everything. Said he's going to hit over 2,000
Just
drivers.
2,000 dogs
2,000,
to get ready.
Just to tighten it all up. And the way he was acting from his interviews, he wouldn't give any numbers, but he acted like it was substantially longer than his current driver. I mean, if he hits it 20, 30 yards further than he is now, I mean, look out if he can keep it, as long as he can keep from hitting these massive foul balls.
It's all about what's the miss look like. When you get a driver that big, I'm sure his good ones are going to go a mile. I mean, they're going to be weird numbers that we've never seen before, but what's the miss look like? But on the other side of that argument, if you're going to look at a golf course, Augusta National, from tree to tree, that's basically where you got to keep it inside of. There's no rough really to speak of, just a little bit of a first cut there. That's the place. So if the miss isn't massive, I wouldn't be at all shocked to see that thing come out of Augusta. I'd still put it less than 50-50 in my mind, but damn, he's still crazy enough to do. And it's hard to argue with what he's doing right now, dude. He's like, he was in at 350 plus all week in Las Vegas and hitting it straight. So
you've bet on worse things than 50-50.
I bet on way worse stuff than that.
But one thing I wanted to get into Como, which we didn't have time to. I mean, he's a good-looking young single man. Like, what happens when you bring a bird back to the place and?
Hey, you want to come
hello,
back to
this
the
is my
crib?
living room.
Want to come back to the crib?
You want to hit a few?
You got a lot of cameras around, though, if you're going to look on the bright side, you know what I mean? Better than Mark Blackburn's setup when he was bringing them back to the cart barn.
Good point.
You know what I mean?
Good
At
point.
least this is an actual house in there,
Man, but speaking of Blackburn, talking with him and Chris Como were two of my favorite interviews because I feel like you learn so much from these guys. They're both brilliant guys. But Chris Como, I mean, the time he spent with Tiger and now Bryson, it's just so cool to see the work he's done.
How about his story, too? Going from a guy that was making no money, thinking about quitting, the golf industry because he literally couldn't get by, to now all of a sudden you fast forward, he's worked with the two biggest names, or two most talked about names in golf of the last probably decade at least, Tiger Woods and Bryson DeChambeau. What he's made out of himself from a guy that was struggling to get by in the golf industry to now one of the preeminent instructors in the world. Like, that's a pretty wild story too.
Yeah, it was awesome to sit down with him. And I know you guys love our gambling picks. We're working on which kind of bet we want this year. We're going to get back into it starting at the Masters in November. So be thinking, maybe you could tweet us. Let us know. Let us know what you think we should put on the line this year.
Yeah, we're looking for a format. How should it work? Last year we did one favorite, one middle guy, and then two long shots. If you can think of a better format or something like that, feel free to fire it to our Subpar Instagram or Twitter, and also what should be on the line. Because last year we had a good bet that will be paid off, but it takes so long for us to settle. Maybe we settle up more frequently this time going forward, but the golf gambling picks will be back soon.
Yeah, that's at golf_subpar. Let us know what you think. Let's go ahead and tease this next guest a little bit,
man.
This is a big one. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure this is one of the first times our guy, Tony Romo, has sat down with anyone for this long and just opened up to us.
Yeah, you can peel off the internet, go in there, look for whatever you want. Tony's not a guy that sits down and does a whole lot of sit-down interviews with anybody. So he's a hard man to get a hold of. Luckily, we got him, and he'll be dropping next week. And we get into a lot of golf, a lot of football, a lot of everything. But what a trip to Dallas. We're only on 2 or 3 right now. One more coming next week. Number 9 will be in the building.
We're not going to tell you too much. You have to stay tuned. That's going to do it for this week's Golf Subpar. We'll talk to you next week.